Well, you've come to the right place to have some fun, to have some fellowship. Tonight, hanging with Harry. So eventually, Harry, we're going to have to call up Tommy or somebody, Nathan, Timmy, somebody, even Aaron could probably help us with this, but we're going to have to get like a theme kind of intro song or some kind of like, what do you call that? What do you call that, Harry?
Good grief, I don't know.
You know, like every good TV show, right? That's the one thing we're lacking on this wonderful program.
A theme song.
Some kind of a theme song, intro, so you don't have to hear me make something up every single week.
I was thinking about the Four Tops singing Ain't No Woman Like a One I Got.
That's what you want? We would get kicked off Facebook, so.
Every day the sun comes around her, I can see
we would have to get like somebody.
Sing in harmony.
We'd have to get somebody to sing that.
I can sing it.
Okay, like somebody that is a little better.
I can sing it. Hey, welcome everybody. I don't know who's online, but welcome. Glad you're here. We're going to have an hour of friendly conversation with a spiritual flavor. Trevor can never remember that line, so I want to make sure he knows.
Okay.
It's a friendly conversation with a spiritual flavor. And we decided today we want you to be involved. I know that means I have to shut up. Do you see me practice?
Involved, huh? So you want more people to interact.
Yeah, right back.
And less of us talking, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Call Trevor on his phone if you want to and interrupt him, or call Aaron Van Fleet, or call Anita at the house and say, go over to the church and take them a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or whatever you want to do, man. Just get engaged with the conversation.
Is that because of last week? Was that because of last week you want more people to interact? Because we just went for it last week.
You just hammered, man. I should have taken an offering. Last week I should have taken an offering after that. But I don't want to lose the intensity. That was wonderful. You know, we talked about when God forgives you, it's all forgiven. And it's fantastic. So we had a great time with that, Trevor. I enjoyed it very much.
I agree, 100%.
I enjoyed it.
It's good. Did you catch Super Bowl this past Sunday, Harry?
I did, in fact, catch Super Bowl. Every minute of it.
Yeah, you were telling me today it's like the first time in a very long time.
I would say it's been 20 years since I've sat down and watched a football game from beginning to end.
We're not even talking about just the Super Bowl. We're talking about any football game on TV.
Any football game, anywhere, anytime, any place.
Because my wife says that's a huge commitment to sit down and watch a football game because it takes, 3.5, 4 hours?
It wasn't a commitment for me, man. It was a joy.
I agree.
I mean, it was a joy.
I
was
agree.
at my mom's house Sunday night.
Yeah.
There were no kids, no grandkids. And I was leaning back on a recliner watching the game. And it was fantastic.
And that's pretty late for you. Like, you must have really enjoyed it because usually, like, you'd be snoozing by about 9:30,
7 o'clock.
So,
it was good, though.
Since you watched the game,
okay,
this is one of my favorite parts.
Here we go.
Right?
Here we
commercials. Did you see any commercials that you liked?
You know, I know they spend big money on a commercial.
Oh, they do, yeah. I wonder what the average, like what a commercial costs in the Super Bowl. Chat, help us out there. Average commercial Super Bowl. I know some.
Well, let's be clear about chat. Can they Google that, Trevor?
Chat, absolutely, yeah.
You know
unless
how
unless
Trevor
I
is,
say
guys.
you
No,
can't
let's
Google
be clear
it.
about this. Trevor wants you to know questions that
not
nobody in the
trivia.
world can know, but you can't Google it.
We're not giving away pizzas right now.
Well, we may before the night's over if we feel like it.
Don't be
so
throwing that out
apparently,
there.
a 30-second commercial for Super Bowl 54, which is last year, cost $5.6 million.
$5.6 million.
For a 30-second.
Let's go back to that, and I'll tell you, in lieu of the cost of those commercials.
Did you have a favorite one?
I can't remember what they were.
So they must not have been that good to get your attention.
Not at all.
My favorite one, and Chad, I'd like to hear your input here because we're trying to get you guys engaged a little bit more tonight.
Chat.
Chat.
Oh, you mean the people watching?
Chat, as in the people
I thought maybe
in the
Chad
comments.
I didn't know who.
I don't know if like this guy understands like what the chat is, but
if he would just speak in 1960s
in
language,
2021, when you say the chat, that means the people that are joined us. Okay, we got that. We're good now. So chat, let us know what your favorite commercial was. Mine was the Rocket Mortgage with Tracy Morgan.
Oh yeah, okay, I remember that.
Yeah,
yeah.
Did you get to watch that one?
Yeah,
that
I don't
was
know
good.
who Tracy Morgan is. Who's Tracy Morgan?
He was the dude that was like leading the charge of that commercial.
Yeah, that was a pretty stinking good commercial, man.
His big thing was he's pretty sure, right? So he pushed him
sure.
out of the airplane saying, "I'm pretty sure this is a parachute."
Yeah, I remember that.
And the girl's like, "I've got a sandwich in mine." because it was literally a backpack.
Yeah.
So it was just scenarios back to back to back.
That was good.
About
That was
I'm
good.
pretty sure you can take that guy.
But you had to tell me that to remind me that.
I know, but that was a funny one. That was a good one.
I saw two of those. 2 different times I saw those. They spent $10 million on those commercials, and
Yeah,
I don't remember.
millions and millions of dollars on commercials, and you just get to a point of like, what are we doing?
If they had sung, I'm stuck on Band-Aids and Band-Aids stuck on me, I'd still remember that.
Right. So
Isn't
you're
it funny, though? There are some
Yeah.
commercial jingles and that kind of stuff.
You're the guy that needs like the jingle, right? That helps you.
I don't know. They're just punchlines and jingles that I
That's
never
what radio
forget.
still does it every now and again.
M&M chocolate candies. We talked about that last week.
Yeah. They
Melt
actually
in-
had a decent commercial.
They melt in your mouth.
Not in your hand.
That's right.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
you're saying like catchphrase.
Yeah.
I remember like,
I answered this one. What's good to the last drop?
I was going to say Folgers in your cup, right?
Hey, you got
Is
it,
that right?
baby. I was going to make
See
that up.
that like, yeah, you're right about
it
that.
hangs,
That
man.
catches, yeah.
Otherwise, it's gone.
And songs are the same way. Like,
Songs are the same way.
right? Songs are the
Yeah,
same
man.
way. Some
Yeah.
songs like you just got, and we're talking about worship songs as well, but obviously there are some songs that like you get in your head and you're just like, man, I can't stand that. Like the Baby Shark song. Oh, that's miserable to get that stuck in your head because you're singing that the rest of the day for sure.
Can I be a little, this feels a little somber, but it's okay. I met today with Debbie Vernon, who just lost her husband, Mike. And she said for the last weeks of his life,
Yeah.
she would hear all time in his bedroom, he listened to Tasha Cobb
Oh, really?
singing He Knows My Name.
Ooh, that's a good one.
And she said, I got to where every time I go by the bedroom, Tasha was singing, He Knows My Name. And so there are times and
Oh, yeah.
places where, man, things
That's
just intersect with you.
huge, yeah.
That's huge.
And you got to know for Debbie, that's got to be huge to
Oh.
get this peace to know that like your husband,
Yeah.
like he knows.
Who's dying of cancer.
You know,
And-
didn't have
and-
many days left.
Yeah, and I mean, and what he's playing over and over and over is Tasha Cobb, Who Knows My Name. And I told you today, Trev, too, and I apologize, but this is real life stuff,
No,
you
it's
know?
good.
Sometimes this whole social networking thing or social ministry thing is exhausting, and you feel like, man, I'm not sure why we do it, and we know we don't do it as well as Elevation Church.
Yeah.
I've heard about Elevation Church and I'm blue in the face. We don't do it as well as Elevation. We don't even do it as well as Southeast, but we do it. And you feel like, But then you have somebody comes back and says, and again, Debbie told me, Mike watched every service while he was sick. Every Sunday morning. He wouldn't miss it for anything.
That's a big deal.
And so you want to say, man, for all of its difficulty and trials and your problems, you think it's worth it. It's worth it. It was worth it. It was worth it.
Yeah, probably more than ever.
Yeah.
More than ever in the church. Like for you guys watching at home, for you guys that are have kind of taken a pause on kind of public events. Like this is a time that I think it's important, and so that's why we're trying our best.
We're just trying.
We're not professionals. We never claim to be. So you get what you get with us, right?
You do.
Yeah. And we do a great job for, I feel like, great volunteer work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Oh,
We've got great
Let's
help.
get off that. Let's don't talk
All
about
right, so what about this? What about this? Ramona has already started, and she says, halftime show was really not entertaining at all. What's your thoughts on the halftime show, Harry? You watched Super Bowl. Did you check out the halftime show?
I committed before Super Bowl started, I was going to turn it off.
Okay, halftime show?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't. I watched every
Yeah.
minute of it.
Right.
Can I be honest and tell you, I did not understand one word the guy said the whole time.
So not
I don't know
only-
if he's singing about cattle in the backyard or some girl. My guess is some girl, but I don't have a clue.
So not only did you not understand what he was saying, but you couldn't even grasp, like, what's even going on here.
Well, I didn't recognize any of those faces of all those guys that had face surgery and had their faces all wrapped up. I didn't recognize any of those guys.
Yeah, that was wild.
I don't believe all those guys in the stands playing violins could really play violins. If he did, he's got a bunch of good.
So there was like violin players in the stands?
You didn't see that?
No, man, I watched the halftime show. Come on. We had a youth party, man. We're too busy playing nine square and
The
spoons.
fireworks and the pyrotechnics and the show
That was impressive.
was unbelievable.
Yeah,
It feels kind of like our age. Now, maybe this is just for older folks.
Okay.
And maybe if I'd grown up listening to Johnny Weekend or whatever his name is. I don't know what the dude's name is.
I think it's The Weekend.
Is his name The Weekend?
I think it's like you wouldn't say, did you listen to Weekend today? You would say, did you listen to The Weekend? Right? I don't really know. I try to be hip, but it's like, it's probably, maybe somebody in the chat can help us there.
Okay.
Any young people in the chat help us
What
out.
did you ask me about The Weekend?
I don't know. We were just talking about how bad like that
Well, it
was.
wasn't, you know, one thing I did, I don't, as far as I know, it wasn't ugly.
Yeah,
it wasn't,
that's a good thing.
It wasn't overtly sexual. You didn't
Yeah,
have some girl pulling
that's
her
right.
top off in the middle of it like we had one, you know, like
That's
one
a good
Super
thing.
Bowl. And
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah,
Now the lyrics could have been.
It may have been
but like you
hugely
said,
political. I don't
no
know, but I
idea.
couldn't understand any words, so it didn't really matter.
So, anyways, yeah, just
Anyway.
fun, just
But
having fun.
I actually loved it. I enjoyed the evening. I
Yeah.
enjoyed the game.
Well, good. Yeah.
I enjoyed
I know-
Tom Brady. I'm impressed with a guy
Oh,
43 years old, still
Yeah.
running a team and doing a fantastic job. You know,
7 Super Bowls.
and Mahomes is a great quarterback. He threw some great passes, fall into the ground, and they hit a guy's hand, hit his face mask, and he dropped it.
Yeah, if you're a
so-
Kansas City fan, you're pretty frustrated
Yeah,
still.
I'm saying get you some
for
new
sure.
split ends and tight ends and some of that stuff maybe.
Right. All right, so let's recap Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday sermon, and I got to encourage our people. If you haven't taken the time to listen to the sermon from Sunday, you can find that on YouTube or Facebook.
Yeah, sweet to say that.
You've got to check that one out.
Sweet you'd say.
And I'm sure I've said that before, but this one was just like, it was bold. You know, the premise was very, something we can practically put our hands on and be able to like respond to that call. It's a tough call though, so go
Yeah,
ahead.
that's sweet you'd say that, Trevor. Well, as I told people on Sunday, I'm not sure where all that stuff comes from. It just comes from my walk.
Yeah,
And I guess I figure that most of us are a whole lot alike. You know, we're a whole lot alike. And so the same struggles I have, you have. I don't think I'm all that much different than you are. And you know, I was just working on trying how to live my life. And I really got struck by verse 1 where he says, you know,
in chapter 12?
Yeah, live your life in a way that involves reasonable service. And what I became aware of was I was the one that defined for me what was reasonable.
right. So here's my version.
Okay?
I read the NLT sometimes. I plead with you to give your bodies to God because of all He has done for you. Let them be a living and holy sacrifice, the kind He will find acceptable. So not acceptable in my opinion, right? Not
Yeah,
acceptable
he'll find it
in
acceptable.
Harry's opinion,
Yeah.
but He will find acceptable,
Yeah,
right?
it's really interesting. You know, some versions say your spiritual worship.
Right.
But, you know, again, I think the better translation is the old King James
Okay.
translation, which says you're reasonable, logical. It comes from the same root.
It says
as
logical? Yeah.
The Greek word is logikein,
Oh, wow.
which is logical
Okay.
service, latreia. And I just came to the conclusion, I was the one that decided, is it too much? The Lord says give $100. I say, well, that's not reasonable for me. I only make X amount of dollars, so give $100? Really? And I'm the one that sets a criteria for what I can and cannot do, what I cannot give, what I cannot say. And it became a real challenge to me, man. You kind of set your own parameters.
Oh, for sure. Like it's one of those things that it's worth like listening to again, because I felt like it's something that too many times we struggle with, you know. And sometimes we don't recognize we struggle with it.
I was a little, and I wouldn't have called it bold. I was amazed, Trevor, that you would call it bold, but that's good. I used a pretty down-home illustration about our Africans,
Okay.
our African church,
Yeah.
which spends 5 hours on Saturday morning in a prayer room.
Yeah.
35 of them, with the drums, boom, 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 and praying and praying and praying. And I'd say everybody in the English congregation would say that's unreasonable. To me, it is. So
But it's funny because, like, we just talked about the Super Bowl. That's a 4-hour-long process. That game didn't end until 10:30, 11 o'clock. And so we'll sit, and I'm as guilty as anyone. We can sit and watch a movie. We can sit and do whatever, but we think it's unreasonable to sit in a room and pray for 5 hours, right? And I know that's tough. I mean, that's tough.
Maybe
I
that's
get
an
that.
extreme illustration.
Yeah.
I know that's an extreme illustration, but
But there's a lot of things in this world we'll do for 5 hours.
yeah.
And I'm guilty of that.
Then I bumped into this other word, Trevor, and I don't want to take too much time. I don't want to just re-preach the sermon. But I bumped into the word, which was an interesting word that says, in everything you ought to be first.
Okay.
I mean, it blew me out of the water. And that doesn't mean you're supposed to be the winner. It meant...
Now, did that come out of Romans 12 anywhere?
Yeah, Romans 12, verse 10 and 11.
10 and
where
11.
he's talking about how to get along with one another, how to love one another, how to care for one another. My version says you ought to outdo one another in showing honor. Outdo.
When you're in relationship with
other Christians. When you're in relationship with one another, you ought to outdo them. You ought to be first. You ought to be first.
Because that's tricky, because like when you say you should be first, we kind of raise our eyebrow like, what do you mean, man? Like I've been told in church. Now there's a part of the Christian world backs up and says, oh, the first should be last and the last should be first. I need to be humble. But the truth is, that call was, man, be first in service. Yep. Be first to show your love. Be first to, carry the load, whatever. Yeah. Just be first. I mean, think about, I'd like to, if we could have a common chat about that. Yeah. I mean, your friends you call chat. Yeah, in the chat. I'd like to know what keeps us from taking the first step. So what keeps us from initiating? Being the first one. Giving us a little bit of example might help. Like when you say, be the first.
Okay.
First in line to get free pizza. What are we talking about? You know what I mean?
You and your wife or you and your husband have had a little tiff over something that's stupid. Most of the time we have fights over something stupid. And there's a little bit of quietness in the room. And we have to figure out who's going to break the silence. Yeah. Hey, I'm sorry. I was stupid in the way I responded. No, we'll sit around for hours waiting. Maybe you guys don't. Anita and I have sat around more than 3 minutes sometimes waiting for somebody to be the first one to speak.
That's good.
You want to say, okay, I'm going to quit doing that. I'm just going to be first.
That's good.
Why don't you tell us about your illustration, Trevor?
Do I have an illustration?
You do.
Okay. Remind me what that one is.
Maybe about Nolan going back to...
Why are you bringing that up?
Okay. Maybe not.
Yeah, I really don't want to talk about that.
He don't want to be first in that.
I mean, I'll probably submit to my wife for sure in that, but...
So Trevor and Jeannie are having a little conversation about whether their 4-year-old needs to go back to a Mother's Day Out program or a pre-K program.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
One of them feels it'd be great for him, and the other one he has some questions about whether he ought to go back or not. And I said, why don't you just be first and submit? And he said, I probably will eventually. I'm thinking, why waste all that time, man? The second word in that story was be first speedily. Do it and just go ahead and say, man, I'll be the first. I thought, what would church look like if everybody's first? Can you imagine saying, anybody got a testimony? And 29 people stand up at the same time. Say, yep.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's a great illustration. Any kind of altar call, any kind of
anything you want to praise the Lord for?
You guys need to praise, like we've done that before. Like, man, anybody got something good to share? Yeah. I did that with the teens, I think, Wednesday night. It's like, anybody got any good things to share?
And usually you get...
It was crickets.
Teens or adults, you get crickets. And then finally...
crickets.
But you know what happens? Yeah. This has always been Danny Bratcher. Hi, Danny. Thanks for the... I know, Danny. Thanks for the encouragement, man. Sorry, I got distracted. You know what happens, though, Trevor? Almost every time in a church setting, when somebody goes first, there are other people that follow along.
Amen to that.
I can remember as a kid, I used to be doing stuff I knew was stupid I shouldn't be doing. The preacher give an altar call, and I'd say, if somebody else goes on.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, you've been there and done that, you know? I'm always waiting for somebody. And it's...
And you have that whole conversation with the Lord. Now, Lord, if you just move somebody... Yeah.
Or I'll pick somebody in particular and say, if James Curry goes, I'm going,
I'm there.
Whatever, I'm there. I'll be right behind him, Yeah. And it's just interesting to apply that to everyday life. I mean, be the first guy to bring donuts to the office. People don't know how to respond when, I don't know. And not for the wrong reason. Just do it.
Be the first one up tomorrow morning with coffee and breakfast for the whole fam, ready to go, right? I mean, just, it doesn't have to be crazy things. You don't have to, turn the world upside down.
Let me give you one that's even better. Well, it's not better than that. It's a sermon from 2 or 3 years ago, I still remember.
Okay.
Always be the first one to take out the trash.
Oh, yeah.
When the can's full, take it out. Be the first one.
It's good. Just take it.
Now, Beverly McKinney says she believes that shyness and fear of embarrassment keep us from being first in public places.
Okay. So our shyness,
And fear of
fear for
embarrassment.
sure is a big one.
Yeah, just fear.
Anybody else? I love to hear what people say to that. Because I feel like that's one of those things that can really help us as a church move to, just a deeper level. Imagine coming into church on Sundays, people really, going with that thought of, I got to be first. I got to be the first one to my seat. I got to be the first one to raise my hand during worship.
That's right.
I got to be the first one to clap and make some noise.
I got to be first one to go to the altar and kneel and pray during
Yeah.
prayer. Or whatever. I
Yeah.
don't care. It don't matter what.
don't matter,
And
yeah.
it's not about just choosing to be first. It's like, particularly when the Lord just picks at your heart a little bit and you feel like, I probably ought to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because we don't want to twist anyone
No, we
to
don't
being more
twist them. Let's say be
spiritual,
funky,
right?
be weird,
We're
yeah.
not trying to be weird with it, but it's just like, man, if the Lord's like pushing you to do that, just do it.
I want to brag on our church a little bit, though. We had a new young man that visited not long ago at the church, and he's been here 2 or 3 Sundays now. And he said, I've been to a lot of churches, larger and smaller, and said, your church was a little unusual in that there were a whole number of people that came up to me and shook my hand and said, I'm really glad you're here.
Wow.
Be the first to greet a stranger.
Yeah.
Be the first to say to a visitor, hi, my name's Joe. Glad you're here today. Just be first.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love the challenge of that. I think that's
Yeah.
a tremendous challenge. Be that with your kids.
Yeah.
Be that with your spouse. Be that in a workplace. Be that in a classroom. Be that in the church. Just adopt that. And as I said, the second word is be first quickly, too. Speedily, man. Be fast. Be quick.
Don't wait.
Don't wait. Don't wait.
It reminds me a lot of where you've kind of pushed us already this year is to say be a taker.
Yeah, be a taker.
It's a very similar concept to just say, man.
Let me tell you a
go.
cute one today. I love this. So, Frida Combs. Frida and Rob have been coming
Yeah.
back to our church. I love that.
That's great.
They were here about 17 years ago, and now they're back.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, 17
Wow,
years.
I love that.
And now they're back. And I love Rob and Frida both. And I love the whole story that goes with that and the grace that's in that whole story. And so Frida said, if you ever need soup, I can fix it.
Okay.
So she called Anita one day this week and said, I have 2 bowls of beef stew, and 2 loaves of bread for anybody in the church that may need it. They're both in the refrigerator at the kitchen. I'm like, oh my God. She said, I want to be first.
Wow.
And I knew that didn't mean she wants to win the game. She means, And so I love this story. So Anita said today, I want to take a bowl of that beef stew over to Herb Augustine. The other one went to James and Marilyn Hodges,
Yeah.
Frida. And I want to take a bowl over to Herb because Anna's in the rehab center and Herb's a good cook, but it's a break. So here's what happened. We drove over there this afternoon, and then he got out and knocked on the back door and said, here's a bowl of beef stew and here's a loaf of bread. And he smiled and he said, well, this is great. He said, some lady from the church just brought me chicken noodle soup about an hour ago. So we were second. I don't know who it was. He didn't know who it was. But
Yeah. That's a great illustration about being first, man. Somebody beat him to the
somebody
punch.
beat us to the draw.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody beat us to the draw. And I don't know who it was, but somebody was first.
And put yourself in that dude's shoes where you're getting 2 bowls of soup that day, and you got to feel like, man, I feel loved.
It wouldn't
cared for.
surprise you that when I left, he said, hey, Pastor, I've got a check for the church. Can I just give it to you? And I said, sure, Herb. And so he gave me his offering for the
Yeah,
church. And I'm telling you, you guys know this. You practice it. Many of you practice it. But if we could just learn to just be first, it would change the dynamic of our lives personally. I mean, just take the first step, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you bring up that offering piece because, it wasn't early on in my walk where I knew about tithing and offering. It took me a little bit to understand what was going on with that. And so it's interesting. I remember you said it before, but just talking about, Sunday is the day that starts your week off.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the whole purpose and like a big point, maybe not the whole purpose, but a big point of, you know, tithes and offerings is that's the first thing out of the paycheck. That's the first thing you give.
First thing. First
know.
fruits. Man, I bumped in. You shouldn't have brought that up.
Yeah, that's good.
I bumped into an idea that's a little crazy.
Okay.
And for all you serious Bible scholars, I don't know what you're going to do with this. But it's from Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 20, I think, in there. Ask me how I got back there, and I could tell you, but you don't want to go through all that. It's about bringing your tithe.
Okay.
That's what it says. Pardon me. It says, get your tithe and bring it to the house of the Lord and sit down with your family and eat it. And he said, by the way, if you've got too far to go, sell it in your homeland, drive to where the sanctuary is, buy the food and the oil and the wine and everything you need, and eat that when you're in the temple of the Lord. Now you need to make provision for the Levites, the guys that work there, because they don't get a portion of the land like you do.
Okay.
But I think to me, that's an unusual picture. I wrestle with, what if I was a pastor and I said one Sunday, you know that tithe you're going to put in today, thanks for bringing it to church. Now this afternoon, take it to Outback and buy the biggest steak you can buy and eat it. Because I don't think we realize that gift, in some odd way, man, it's for us. I know that's an odd thought, and I'm sure I'm taking it too far, but people that have given faithfully through the years will tell you they've been blessed and blessed and blessed and blessed and blessed. And it's like you get to eat the end result of a generous life.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine talking to people who have given a tithe and offering for years and years and years, 30 years.
Yeah.
That like you would have a conversation with them. Maybe we need to do that sometime. Literally find some people that have been generous over the years and just talk to them about that one Sunday or even one Hanging with Harry.
Yeah.
And just have a conversation about what that looks like for them and why. Why would you continue to do that Sunday after Sunday?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I would assume they would say, because I love it, because I love what the Lord has given me and I'm just giving back, or, just, I don't know, it'd just be incredible to see like how people would do with that, what they would say with that.
It's just been, it's tremendous.
Yeah.
I don't know where all that,
That's good.
I don't know how we end up talking about that, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
So let's take a quick turn.
Okay, let's turn. I'm ready.
Turn. All right, this is where we need the chat to step up their game, okay? Need the chat to step up their game. You guys good now? Get your fingers ready to type for us, all right? So this segment is, we're going to call it Chat Takeover, okay?
Oh.
Chat Takeover.
So this is Open Line Tuesday.
Yes, whatever that means, Open Line Tuesday. So you guys get to steer the conversation for the next little bit. So whatever you guys, there you go, Chat Takeover. So whatever you guys want to, question-wise, send us some questions about whatever you want, spiritual, fun, personal. And Harry and I will try our best to kind of hit those. All right, so this is your time. Harry and I are going to kind of be quiet for a little bit.
I'm going to take a nap, Trev, because I'm not anticipating.
But we need you guys to put some questions in.
Aaron, can you play the Jeopardy? Hey, there's my aunt. Hi, Wilma. I love Wilma. Wilma's 80 years old, and she's the one involved in homeless ministry in Richmond.
That's right.
She's got a daughter, my first cousin, that's just battling cancer, and the Lord's helping her and touching her, and celebrate with Wilma. That's good.
All right, I loaded us up with a couple questions from the teens. I texted them today.
Oh, good. Okay.
And they have a couple. What's Harry's favorite thing to preach about? Gives the time for the chat to kind of send us some questions in, okay? Harry's favorite thing
to preach about?
To preach.
Well, it reminds me of President Truman, whom they said it was a man, was a few words.
Okay.
And so he went home from church one day and his wife said, "What did the preacher preach about?" And he said, "Sin." What did he say about it? And he said, "He's against it." And that's all he had to say. So I guess the truth is what I really want to preach about is Jesus.
Just preach about Jesus.
That's it.
Everything surrounding that topic.
Yeah.
Jesus. It's good. All right, we're getting some questions in now.
Good.
Shane Burris asks, when did Harry know he wanted to lead a church? That's a big question.
Well, it was after, I felt like initially I wanted just to give my life in ministry.
Okay.
I know what that meant.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be full-time involved in church work because I was so excited about being a Christian and living for God. I thought anything would be better than making car paint, which was what I was doing. And I know that was true. So I went away planning I'll be a youth pastor or I'll be a missionary or something. And I started with this real broad call that said, I just want to do what God, and somewhere along the way, it just got narrowed down to where I felt like, and I can't tell you exactly when.
Yeah.
At some point, I just knew I just need to pastor a local church.
Wow.
And so that's what I've been doing.
That's pretty awesome.
Been a fun decision.
Absolutely. So just over time.
Over time.
It wasn't like this one huge moment.
Not for me.
Yeah.
But it started with just a desire to be involved. And I know people, man, I'll never forget. It was a Wednesday night. Jackie Holzman, you mentioned Tommy early. Jackie Holzman brought a friend with her to the Wednesday night service who had called on their office. He came to Wednesday night service, engaged. He's a fun guy. He was 11 years from retirement. He said, 11 years from now, when I retire, I'm going to go into full-time ministry. I'm like,
I remember you saying that.
dude, you may want to start tomorrow. You know, so there's a sense of urgency in that.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. So
Yeah. That's good.
that's the best answer I can give.
No, it's good. We got another one here. Keep them coming.
Oh no.
This is your all's time to ask anything you want, and the man's got to answer. All right. Here
I
we
don't mean
go.
to have an answer. I'll make one up. Oh, you.
That's right.
See if you can tell truth or consequences. See if it's the truth or a lie.
This comes back to be the first to get a good question.
I'll
in.
be the first. Okay.
All right. So Beverly McKinney says, how do you feel about those that want to help in the background without people knowing?
Oh my goodness. We can't make it without those in the background. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. Beverly, we got to have them. They're the best, man.
You don't have to be on TV around here.
No. I'll tell you how I feel about them, though. So many times we don't know who they are. They don't even present themselves as people that want to work. They want to do it, but you don't know to call on them because they haven't really said, hey, you can use me for anything you want to use me for, but don't call me up front. Don't ask me to speak. Don't ask me to play the piano. Don't call my name out loud. But if you need it, I'll be there. They're the best. By the way, that's who Beverly is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Kevin Brown says,
Oh, no.
Ask
Wait a minute. Well, let's be clear right now. I'm nervous about Kevin Brown.
don't be nervous because this is a good one. This is a good one. You ready?
Yeah.
Ask Harry if he remembers giving my wife, Lisa, a red bow and what the significance of that was.
Oh, yeah. You know, I remember that. I've told that story a bunch of times. So, Kevin, I'm going to tell that. I'll try to tell it kind of quickly. I was kind of in my prayer time one time, just quietly praying. In fact, I was slipped away in the closet because when you got younger kids at home, it was a while back, kids are home, grandkids are around, you got to go somewhere, you know. So it was a big enough closet. I wasn't cramped in, but I went in the closet and shut the door, and I was just praying, trying to get ready to preach. And I remembered a time in my life that was very, very, very difficult. It was Christmas time, and it was just difficult. My dad was away from home, and I didn't know where he was and what he's doing, and it was different. It was difficult. And so I was reflecting on that and kind of sad about it in that situation. And it's like the Lord gave me this picture. It was an odd picture. I don't know where it came from, but I was sitting in the barn. It was Bailey Griggs' barn in Valley View, Kentucky. I was sitting in the barn, and up one of those big center poles made out of a cedar tree, up high was this big red bow. And I remember saying to the Lord in that moment, I said, Lord, this bow, I don't get it. This night was not a gift to me. It's not a gift. And he said, I know it wasn't a gift to you. This is just to let you know I saw everything that happened that evening. Oh, my goodness. I'm like, you mean, you knew?
Yeah.
I was right there. I saw everything that transpired in the stripping room in that old barn. Wow. And I have had more people remind me of the red bow illustration than any other illustration I've ever used. So
really?
It's just, Kevin, it's just to remind you, the Lord saw it, He knew about it, He was there, He was watching over you, He was keeping you. even though you might not even known it at the time.
Yeah, that's good. Those illustrations are powerful. They really are, because it not only gives you this like keyword quick memory, but it brings you back to a memory of a sermon that can continue to develop as a promise the rest of your life, you know, of the character of God and how He's provided and how He's with us for that special
Yeah, it's
moment.
interesting, Kevin, I'll respond to you. It's probably too much, but I've buried a number of people that their loved ones put their red bow in the casket.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, it was a big, thank you for asking. You remind me of that.
That's great.
Remind me of that.
All right, keep the questions coming. We need some more. We need some more. And I'll ask one right now.
Oh, you ain't got no more to ask them?
Wow.
I'm going to take a nap if they don't want to talk.
While we're waiting for people to hit it up. Come on now. I don't care if you've never spoken in the chat before. This is your time to just give us something here. All right, here's my question.
Okay.
And maybe the chat can even answer too.
Okay, go ahead.
I would say most memorable or your favorite kind of Sunday morning at this church. Does that make sense, chat? Your favorite Sunday morning at this church. Maybe it was something that was said. Maybe it was a testimony that was given. Maybe just like the red bow, it was an illustration. But your favorite Sunday morning.
Well, I don't know if it's my favorite, but I got a special one that
Yeah,
comes to
it's
my
special,
mind.
yeah.
You may have been here, Trevor. I don't think you were, Aaron, but you may have been here. It was a Sunday morning that we set up a microphone and said, this is a morning that you can just declare your faith in the Lord.
How you gonna take my? That's the one I was about to give. This
Man,
guy,
it was special, wasn't it?
It was good, man.
And
It
people
was so
just
good.
lined up, and they gave us 2 seconds, said, I believe in Jesus,
Yes.
I've accepted Him. Others would say a little more. And you know what became hugely so meaningful to me
yeah.
in
I
that
know
is
what
we
you're
all
gonna
love
say.
Harold Newton,
Yeah.
and Harold was Harold, man. I loved Harold Newton,
Yeah,
still do.
absolutely.
And not too long after that Sunday morning, he had a massive heart attack and died. And that was such a gift
Yeah.
to remember his expression of faith in Jesus on
What a
that Sunday
gift,
morning.
yeah,
Man,
for
it was
sure.
just, it was fantastic. So
Yeah.
there have been lots of different
There have
kinds
been.
of
Yeah,
things.
it's hard to just say this is my.
But I think
most memorable.
those times that are creative and people are involved and engaged, man, that's always the most beautiful and the
Yeah.
best ones, you know. But
Yeah.
that's one that comes to mind.
I mean, a couple come to my mind. And like I said, I'd love to hear from the chat if they have one. Obviously, I was going to say that one because I remember the line just wrapped.
Yeah.
You know, because it was like, and you wonder, you go back and you think about it, that's probably before we were recording stuff. Maybe not, I don't know.
We had it on DVD. We had it on a.
We had a DVD, yeah.
We had an audio recording, but we
Okay.
didn't have a video
Okay.
recording.
But just to see like who got up first.
Yeah.
And to see how long it took people. Because I do remember, man, that was a line, you know, and it took a while. But it was a great morning. One I'll never forget. Another one I remember is definitely when we had like the chairs on the stage and people were just sharing about their testimony.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of their testimony.
You know, there's an interesting theme coming through this that I didn't anticipate. Maybe we got to
Okay.
learn from, all of us.
Yeah.
And that is, I remember the Sunday morning that Jane Cantrell
Okay.
shared a story that was so moving.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she'd ever told it publicly before. And the fear of embarrassment was great for her, but we all loved her more because of that. It was one of those fantastic mornings,
Yeah.
man, that if you were here, you would never forget.
So what's the thing that's is surprising to that?
It's when we as a people get involved.
Yeah.
In fact, Trevor and I have been talking about, maybe a good time to mention, there's a bit of a new movement among the men happening in the life of our church.
Yeah, absolutely.
And 2 or 3 or 4 guys have kind of got, I don't know, they've kind of gotten, and
Sparked or something.
we've been talking about getting that movement to go. And what we're hoping is it'll be a movement of what the Lord's doing in you and how He wants to use you. And it won't be so focused on me and my teaching or Trevor and his leadership. It'll be more on, well,
Like
you got it this week, Larry,
Yeah.
and you got it this week, Rick, and you got it this week, Dwayne, and you got it this week, you
Yeah.
know.
like a group together on a mission to just encourage one another, grow,
challenge one another,
and more than anything,
to challenge one another.
Just challenge one another.
Yeah, really.
You know, because I recognize, like, and it goes back to the sermon on Sunday. You know, there's a lot of times when we operate, I think you said this, I wrote it down. You said we operate, if I can find it, under our own understanding.
Yeah.
And kind of our own radar, our own speed, whatever you want to say there. But ultimately, our walk becomes very much, I mean, it's our own.
It's mine.
And sometimes...
It's the way I live it.
And sometimes that's not a great thing.
No, man.
Because that's not what God would find acceptable.
You know, remember, some of you were coming around Wednesday nights 2 or 3 years ago when we're doing this thing where I would pick somebody in the crowd that night. And you can only do it with Wednesday night crowd. I don't know if you could do it with Sunday morning crowd.
Yeah.
Do it with the Wednesday night crowd. I remember saying one night, Greg Laughlin, you're in charge tonight. At any time in the service, you can interrupt the service in any way you want and tell anybody here to do whatever you want to tell them to do. So we're in the middle of something. And he said, raised his hand and said, yeah, I need Robert Childers to go over and pray with this person and the other. And so
right in the middle of your lesson.
Right in the middle of it, man. So Robert got up and went over and prayed. And there was another time when somebody stopped and said, we need to stop right now and take an offering for so-and-so and so-and-so. And we did. And something about the dynamic of that moment, I've never been able to get away from, that there was somebody that had been authorized to speak in such a way that everybody in the room said, okay, we're in. If that's what you say, we need to all go sit on the right side over there and face that wall. That's what we're all going to do. And it feels like we need that kind of submission to one another so we can learn from one another and let somebody challenge us to say, hey, this week, that's what I want you to do this week. I want you to read the book of Romans from one end to the other. Between Sunday and Sunday, read the whole book.
Yeah. I really am excited because one thing, you know, it's the Lord has absolutely put that on my heart to kind of spearhead that. I don't know why, but it's just been on my heart and mind, and I can't get away from it. And so hopefully by the end of the month, like we'll have something
that ball
together,
rolling. Man.
And just be challenged, you know.
Can we play a little game here? Wilma says, I can't wait to come and worship with you. That's my aunt, guys, and bring Dana with her. I'm so excited about that, Wilma. Bring Larry with you, too, and make him stay over on Monday and watch basketball with us.
There's a lot of people saying, I remember that Sunday also. Leah says, that was one of my favorite Sundays. Tim Miller says, I definitely remember that Sunday. Ramona says, maybe we could repeat that kind of a Sunday service. Yeah. You know, that people, because you recognize, how many years ago was that, Harry?
Yeah, time goes by.
10?
Yeah, I don't have any idea.
I don't have any idea.
I don't have any idea.
I mean, it would be right there, be along the same timeline of when we lost Harold.
You know, I don't, we might repeat it.
Yeah.
All I want to do is, and I think as you get older, it's a challenge to stay fresh. I'm kind of crazy and dramatic and creative anyway, but I don't want to lose the freedom to just do something crazy.
Yeah.
You know, church, it needs
you
to be fresh, man.
Yeah, I don't think people recognize it's different how you operate in terms of every Sunday morning. Because we talked, I'll give you an example. We talked last week, Harry and I was in a meeting, and we were going one direction with the sermon. He's like, hey man, help me out with this, throw some ideas out when I speak about this. And then by Sunday, he was at a totally different point, weren't you?
Yeah.
Totally different point of where the Scripture kind of led you, where the Holy Spirit led him.
Yeah.
And so it's just encouraging to know that, like, you're a pastor who's totally open to the work of the Lord, to the Scripture forming your sermon, but also to prepare, because there's some people out there, right, which is fine, who ultimately, like, they get 5 months down the road on what they're going to preach on, which is, that's great organization.
Yeah, it is.
Right? and I know the Lord can still work.
He uses that, man.
Every single morning. Like,
He uses that.
As you step up to the pulpit, He can give you something right then and there, even though you've had this sermon planned out for months.
Yeah.
But I think it's just interesting, and I don't know if everyone knows that, how our pastor operates, but it's encouraging to know that you're wide open coming in here on Sunday
in that
mornings.
particular week, you know, I was working on Romans chapter 12, verses 10 and 11.
Yeah.
All week long.
Yeah.
But on about Friday, I noticed verse 1. And I'm like, good grief. Verse 1 sets the stage for all of this. And at that point, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to have to deal with verse 1. Which
So
is
ultimately, you almost cancel.
almost, yeah.
Almost, you know.
I just
you
threw the
cancel
other
this,
in as
right.
supporting points.
Right.
You know, yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. But
that's pretty
if
cool.
we can be, and I think I want to brag on our people, they don't hold me back.
Yeah.
The only thing that holds us back from being fresh and creative is me. Now, I might get 1 or 2 complaints, but it doesn't matter. Our people,
Yeah, you're right.
they'll go along. I mean, they will go along. They have in all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true.
And to the fact, some of you guys remember this. Timmy Miller, remember this. The Sunday that we were having church, and this dude comes running in from the outside the foyer into the front of the room. He's got boxing gloves on, and he's boxing the air, and everybody thinks,
It's part of the sermon.
yeah, what's the pastor up to now? And there was a kid on the back row. It was Larry Parrish's younger son, Cody.
Cody, yeah.
And he looked over at Cody and boom, hit him right in the face and ran out the door.
Just socked him.
And it's like, what in the world but people had been used to so many oddball illustrations. They thought, what's he going to do with this one, you know? And
So how long did it take people to recognize, like, Harry's not up to this? Some men run after the guy, I'm sure, Larry Borders being
well,
one.
if they'd have known it, the guys would have tackled him before he'd ever got through
Right,
the door. But
right.
that's the reason nobody moved is they thought, yeah, this is another one of those.
Yeah.
This is one of those attempts to get the message across. And
right,
so,
right.
man, if you can, as people that attend our church, encourage that creativity. Bring it to the table as well. I mean, yeah.
And when that creativity's out there, that's what I would say. When that creativity happens, and part of that, like, you know, is on a Sunday morning, and there's a time to respond, be the first.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, like you asked, let me ask this question. You said at some point during the sermon on Sunday, you said, man, it's awfully quiet in here. And you and I can almost, I know what you were saying there. You were, as a pastor, you're thinking either people, you were just wondering in your set, like, man, are people really getting this? Or are they just offended and have tuned me out? So what do you think about that? And chat, feel free to give us your input on that too. I'm interested to hear what
Now,
some people would say
let me tell you all,
that.
guys, Trevor told me he's going to bring this up. We don't talk about all the pieces, but he said I'm going to bring this up. And, well, first of all, let me say, it's a little embarrassing. It's a little bit too self-aware to feel like, this is awkward, man. I'm feeling awkward up here. But in case you haven't noticed, preaching can be kind of awkward.
Yeah.
Particularly when you feel like you've studied a word and it's pretty strong and it goes cross-grain with where a lot of us are living. It's just pretty awkward, man. It doesn't mean you're mad at people, but it's pretty awkward.
You're just, and ultimately, like, your heart is, I'm trying to challenge our people.
Oh, yeah.
The Lord has put this on my heart, and I got to be a mouthpiece here and challenge. Because that's I think, like, that's one of the biggest reasons I think church is important. You know, for us individually, it's important to be a part of the body and to worship together, but to be challenged week in, week out by the word and by what the pastor is getting worked on. You know.
So you're up there preaching your heart out, and it's quiet as a church mouse.
It was
like,
very quiet. Yes.
Okay, you know. And I'm trying to, and I do this, and it's a fault.
Do you feel like in those moments? Do you feel like, man, I need to back off a little bit, or what?
No, I don't ever feel like backing off.
That's good. That's a good.
No, I don't feel like backing off.
Yeah, don't back off.
But what I feel like is, am I being clear? Is this being understood? Is there resistance going on here? What's going on here, you know? And here's what would happen, guys. Let me tell you. One amen at the right time. The morning that Frida Combs said, word, it was like the whole congregation went, Poh. It was just like a little. And I'm telling you, that first response, if the Spirit's speaking to you through the preaching and there's a way that you need to respond, when you do, there's somebody else that says, man, I'm with you, brother. That's exactly the way I felt. You know, in fact, at the end of the service, one of the guys came forward and come up and knelt and prayed. I don't know that I really gave an invitation, but he just came up and prayed. Well, that made an impact on a group of guys. Oh, yeah. You know, and so.
And about that same time.
Yeah.
It's just funny how it happened, but on the other side of the church,
a lady went over there.
There's a lady, and then then when I recognize, like, after praying, like, look over, and there's a huge group of women, young to old,
Yeah.
and like, if you miss those moments, like, you're really missing something, and I hope we can just really take that challenge on.
How can we create an atmosphere where it's okay to do that? How can we create an atmosphere where it's okay to respond?
It's on us, though, is it not?
I don't know. Yeah, it's on.
Like, we're the barriers, aren't we?
It's on. Well,
Like, I'm like.
Are you
every
talking
time,
about we or we? Me.
We, as in all of us, but like, there's always times where I could look back and, man, I really missed an opportunity where I knew I should have got up and said something. That's not for everybody, right?
No, it's not.
Not everybody's comfortable standing up and saying, "Give me the mic. I'm ready to tell what the Lord's doing." Like, that's okay. That's really okay.
We don't want everybody to.
Yeah,
either.
we don't need that.
Yeah, yeah, we don't.
We don't need to go back to the days of, Harry, I got a special I'm going to sing. Like, we don't want to go back to those days.
Ooh.
But here's where we're at, though. There's too many times personally, I'm speaking for we, but I'm definitely speaking for myself, where I totally get in the way and I say,
I remember there was a time,
can't do that.
a number of years ago, where you felt
What
like
will people think?
the Lord really wanted you to do something, and you just flat wouldn't do it. I mean, you just said, and you're not the only one.
Yeah, and I'm talking Sunday morning specifically.
Yeah.
And we can talk about life in general, but I'm
Yeah.
talking for us when you ask the question, how do we open that nozzle up and just wide open?
Yeah.
How do we get that flowing? And,
I like black preachers, especially old black preachers.
Oh yeah, they get after
I
it.
like G.E. Patterson, Gilbert Patterson. You just watch him. You watch that congregation, and you're like,
Yeah.
good grief. He's preaching, and they're standing up, man.
Oh yeah, they can't sit still.
And it's just like, I would love to be there, but I think if I got there, I'd be scared to death. I don't think I could do it. I love to watch it on TV, but I think I'd be in there going, that old lady over there has me scared to death. I don't know what she's going to do. So Michelle Martin says sometimes it's hard to be first.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's never easy to stand out in the crowd or to make the first move.
Or be bold in that.
But in relationship, think about, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good, but it's part of the challenge and privilege of. And I don't know if we can make this more practical for Trev.
Yeah.
If there's any way to make this more practical for the folk that are watching.
I don't know, man. I just feel like that's why I say go back and listen to Sunday sermon if you haven't, because it was very practical. When you talk about, is it acceptable in God's eyes? Not. Me standing up and saying, Harry, I gotta share something. Like, it's not about you at that point.
No.
It's about pointing to Christ.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, like, you're pretty open to the movement of the Spirit. We're, as a congregation, pretty open. But I think individually, like, we got to be really, we got to come in on Sundays, prayed up and feeling like, I'm ready to go. Like, I'm ready. I'm expecting the Lord to do something huge today.
You remember the week before, we talked about joy.
Yeah.
And I made the point, and it's been a challenge to me too, that I don't always need to go into the situation hoping the situation will bring me joy. But my hope is to bring joy into the situation. And I thought, what would it be like if on some Sunday morning everybody came to church and they weren't coming in saying, boy, I hope today makes me feel better. I'm kind of dragging, and spiritually I've had a hard week, and I've been down a whole lot, and I'm just kind of struggling with this or that. And I hope the music and the sermon and the people, I just hope it dovetails for me together, and somehow I can get kind of back up on the track.
Yeah.
Now, be a room full of that versus just one Sunday, be a room full of people who said, you know what, God's helped me this week, and He's been with me, and I can't wait to get in there and worship Him and, man, celebrate what He's done and give Him praise and bring to Him some of the stuff I'm scared about, I'm struggling with, and ask Him to help me through it.
Yeah.
It's a whole different, one comes in down here and one comes in up here, man.
Right.
It's
a difference between letting the wall down,
Yeah.
right? Taking the mask off, like we say.
Yeah.
Be vulnerable enough to say, yeah, I need to be at that altar.
Yeah.
Because that's because my wife just put in the chat, like, man, Sunday was very special. And I agree because of the response time. And then when I noticed walking away from the men's huddle, I noticed, and you came up to me and noticed it too, but you're just like, man, nobody's leaving.
Yeah.
Everybody's like up here talking. There's people all around talking, and that's special.
Yeah,
and
it's
I think
special.
people were more open to one another. People were open to kind of just loving on one another from what they experienced with two people.
Yeah.
I mean, all it took was one or two people.
One guy, one girl.
To just move forward.
One guy, one
You know?
girl.
I don't know. Just be more open.
He was first, she was first.
Yeah.
Used to be when the old-fashioned revivalists would come to town. Literally, Trev, I'm telling you the truth. They'd find somebody in the crowd and encourage them when they gave an altar call to respond.
To make sure something.
To make sure they responded,
Yeah.
because they knew somebody
one-
breaks the ice, boom. Now we're not looking for a
No, we're not
fake
looking for
breaking
that.
the ice.
We're not looking
But
for the show.
No. We are looking for people that are just genuinely responding to what the Lord's saying and doing. And every time it makes, when it's genuine, it makes a difference.
Oh yeah.
It
for
makes
sure.
a difference. You know, so I really love that. I really love that.
Aaron Van Fleet says, I tend to get quiet when I'm really focused and the message is hitting home.
Yeah. I had a number of people tell me, you know why people were so quiet? Because it's right where we're all living. And I'm like, okay, I got that. Because that's why it hit me. Because I'm like, dude, I'm the one that determines in my life what I think is reasonable. I make those decisions. And so I let it in or I turn it out based on what I think. And so, yeah. I think
We
we all
gotta
live
start
there. We all
measuring.
live there too much.
Yeah, we got to start
And we
measuring
need somebody that would expand us, stretch us.
Yeah,
Say, come on. That's why everybody really needs a mentor.
yeah.
Everybody needs somebody walking along with them saying,
Giddy up.
You probably,
Calling you out,
yeah, calling you out, calling you up.
calling you up,
Yeah, come
asking,
on, let's go.
caring,
Let's go.
you know.
Yeah, caring.
Putting your arm around them and just loving, yeah. Because we all need that.
Now, let me tell this story.
Yeah, go ahead.
I need to be done. I don't know how many times I've told this story. I'm going to be like one of them old preachers, and everybody said, I've heard him tell that story 50 times. It's about the girl that's sitting in the balcony during this church service,
Okay.
and she said, I think the Lord wants me to do somersaults across the platform.
Okay, yeah.
It was one of those churches where you didn't do it without asking the pastor.
Is that right?
Yeah, I love that. Some churches that are more dramatic,
Yeah.
they have a methodology for that. You don't just run up and take over. I mean, really, you don't.
That would be a mess,
You send the
wouldn't it?
word down and it says, hey, Pastor, I feel like the Lord's telling me to do somersaults across the platform. And he says, stay in your seat, girl. Or he says, hey, come on down. You know, so she makes her way down, and obviously she was acrobatic enough that she did somersault. And when she got done, some guy came busting down the hallway and hit the altar. And he said, I told the Lord this morning, and it always moves me, if somebody does somersaults across the altar,
Get out
I'll
here.
respond to you.
Yeah,
She had to be first.
yeah.
You
That
just
is a
never know.
perfect, absolute perfect. Thank you for that, Harry. That's a perfect
You
illustration.
just never know what
Yeah.
that one little obedience, and that's stupid. I mean, that's a stupid illustration.
Yeah, but it's real though.
But
like
just
that,
one little word, one little deed, one little kindness, you know, one little honest response is,
that's
it goes
boldness,
so
man.
far.
It takes boldness to do that.
It
To
goes
be a
so
girl that
far.
says, "I'm gonna go, okay, I gotta do somersaults."
Don't try that on Sunday. You do, I'm going to say, just stay in your seat. But anyway, it's good to be challenged just to say, you know, and sometimes, well, we have to throw this in too, you know. There's certain personalities out there, when you say be first, they just kind of get crazy and say, I want to. And it's not about just dreaming up first things to do. It's about listening to the Lord in balance with His Word and saying, I'm convinced, I'm persuaded this is what the Lord wants me to do, and then be first. Don't just go nilly-willy crazy saying, I'm going to do something and make a big splash today. Yeah, all you're going to do is get everybody wet. You're not going to do anything, you know, because if the Lord's behind it, oh my goodness, it'll be exactly what He wants. But if you're just trying to, even if you're just trying to do something, I mean, it don't have to be ugly motives. You're just trying to make something happen.
Yeah. If the Lord's pushing you to do it, just
Otherwise, don't do it.
Yes, yeah. I know we need to wrap up, but I had one more thing to add. And we talked about it earlier about a hitch.
Yeah.
I don't know, I felt like the Lord just telling me, like, let's talk about that for just a second before we wrap up.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me be a little vulnerable and
Yeah.
say, my spiritual walk's probably like yours. It's moving forward. But it kind of moves forward like this. Seems like I make a little advance, and then something comes to me, and I feel like I struggle. Well, then I recover back to where I was, and I make a little farther distance, and somebody says something, and didn't go like I wish it had, and I take it personal, and I go back again. Or, and I get back to where I was, and I find out this couple's leaving the church, and they've been here forever, and I'm like, man, what did I do? And boom, so it's like, I call it a hitch. It's a word for me. I don't know how I got to that word, but it really means, it meant, originally it was related to your walk.
Okay.
There's a pause in your walk.
Something caused that pause?
Yeah, it's like they would say, you can see people that walk with a funny gait.
Yeah.
They got a little bit of they would say he's walking with a hitch.
Right.
There's a pause or there's a
Kinda
jerk
like a
in
gimp.
your walk. Yeah,
Yeah.
got a gimp knee,
Yeah.
So sometimes my spiritual walk, I just wanted to be, but I do pretty good and I let something get to me and I got to catch up and then I'd make a little hit and somebody says something stupid and I got to catch up. And honestly, in my case, Trev, I have too many spiritual little backsets. They're just emotional, spiritual backsets. Most time it's because I'm too worried about me.
Okay. Like how people view you?
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you got any examples?
Only about 10 million.
What about this past week? Got any examples of that? A hitch.
Yeah, hitch in your get along. I don't know, I want to be careful, So I preached hard Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I was excited about it.
Yeah,
It was a good
yeah.
morning. We
It's a
enjoyed
great
it.
morning.
Here together. And then all it takes is for somebody to make some negative comment. And I can go,
Right.
like you didn't do that right. Or I find out these people won't hear that Sunday. They're considering going to a different church. And I go, because I always feel like I must have let them down somehow.
Oh, okay.
As if the whole world depended on me. How stupid is that?
Yeah.
And so it just gets in the way for me, man. It gets in the way. And I will get to the point, Trevor, honestly, where I'm so much out of the equation that honestly I don't have these little, I can go all day and make this far.
Yeah.
Because I'm going back and going forward, going back and going forward, going back and going forward, going back and going forward. And
That's
I don't
pretty
know.
draining, right? That's
It's draining. And
that's a rough
sometimes
day.
that happens in your marriage, man.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
wife
yeah.
says something, the husband said something, and it's just like, it's just a great big pause in your spiritual. You'll feel like, man, I was having a great day until you said, and then maybe not everybody works that way. But I was having a great day until I run into this person at the store. Let me give you an illustration if I can.
Yeah.
And I know we need to wrap up.
Yeah, you're fine.
Monday Night Ball.
Okay.
Two of the best point guards in the league were facing one another.
Okay.
And they got to where it was almost not one team playing another team. It was one point guard playing the other point guard.
Right.
And in my mind, the better of the two got distracted by this other point guard.
For sure.
This one guy was a college ball player. He may be, if not the best, he's the top 2 or 3 players in the whole league.
Right.
50 guys.
Yep.
And he let this other guy just get in his head.
Uh-huh.
And they didn't get physical. It wasn't nothing like that. They didn't even
Yeah.
get really ugly
It wasn't
verbal with
ugly,
one
yeah.
another. But he couldn't get on with his game. So I went to him afterwards and
He
said,
had a hitch.
so I went to him afterwards and I called him out and I said, hey, dude, let me tell you something. Listen, you're way better than that. Next time, don't let that guy distract you. He said, I said, that's exactly what happened. He distracted you. He distracted you. And you're way better than that. And you would have played way. He said, but it was just chirp, 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 chirp. You know how he does? He just chirps, chirp. I said, man, you've heard chirping your whole life. Just ignore the chirping.
Yeah.
And so we go along and we'll hear a little chirp, 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 and we get distracted. I wish I could tell you that didn't happen to me. I pray for me that quits happening ever
Yeah,
again.
for all of us.
You know, for all of us,
we
because
need that help.
you just spiritually, you just go on pause for a minute, or it's almost like you go in reverse.
And honestly, sometimes it's longer than we ever want it to be.
Oh, sometimes it's a day, man.
Sometimes it's months. And sometimes it can be even longer than that. Don't you believe that?
Oh, yeah, I do. And
because of one thing.
Chirp, 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 chirp.
Right.
Something just got the best of me.
And here's what I've realized. Sometimes when those things happen to me and I take it a certain way, that's not how that person meant that at all.
I know.
That's a huge, and sometimes they didn't even have to say anything. I just project this thing, you know. It was funny, like not too long ago, you told me that somebody had texted you, and obviously I'm not going to give away names here because that's not what we're about.
I'll tell them who it is. Go ahead.
But somebody texted you, and somebody that you haven't seen in a long time, and they just said, you know, I just need you to know that so-and-so just wants me to know, for you to know that they forgive you. And when you told me that, I was like, what did you ever do? And we both were just like, I don't know. And so you could sit there and recognize somebody that you had a relationship with, no more relationship for years and years and years, obviously over some kind of projection that they had, and you're just kind of like, man.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah, really.
Now, I know some people that seem to be able to just ignore that and keep going, man. I mean, nothing seems to get them down. And I'm a little bit envious of those people. Sometimes I worry they're not sensitive enough.
Okay.
If you're one of those, nothing bothers you. I mean, you just walk on anything and anybody. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that. But what I really don't want to be is I don't want to be so selfish and self-centered that I let somebody's comment put me on a spiritual pause.
It's good.
I just don't want to be put in a spiritual pause, man.
Yeah. Yep.
And the only way I know to do is call on the Lord, man.
Yeah.
Depend on Jesus. Call out to Jesus.
Yep.
Call out to Jesus. Lord, I leave this situation in your hands. I don't know. He may be right. She may be right. I may be a moron in this situation. But help me to run to you and find help. Because
be the first.
Man, be the first. Life is too sweet and too precious, and people are too important, and the work of the kingdom's too important to let some, and I guarantee you there's people sitting here right now that can identify a personality or a hitch that sets them back all the time. Somebody says something, somebody does something repeatedly, all the time. So I make a little headway and boom, it's like I just get set back. I'm like, oh man, would you... And I get discouraged and I get back, because it sets you back.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going to hell. I'm not talking about you backsliding completely, though it can become an issue.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, forward movement just stops. And then you find a way, you pray, you work through it, and you get ahead of it. And if you're not careful, you just get this far down the road, and then here comes the next one. And life ends up being a series of, and at the end of the day, you're this far down the road. Because you spend half your time either in neutral or going in reverse.
Yeah. And I think ultimately, like what can help us with that and to answer, and it goes along with what Leah just put, I think it's so important to pray for and encourage one another to help when these things come along. Right? But here's the thing about that. If I'm not walking along with somebody, if somebody's not mentoring me, if I'm not being vulnerable enough to share that with someone, to share that struggle, that book we're reading, Disciple Shift, talks about it this week, the chapter we're looking at now, about this pastor and his wife and how they moved through this rough season of their life where their son's a huge addict and just totally addicted to drugs, to where he's in a halfway house trying to get better. Then they got to raise all this money to get him to this rehab center, and they couldn't get it done. But the lesson that they learned in this whole process was that their small group that they were in, that they were a part of, people that were in their church, because they were vulnerable enough to be in a place where they just didn't act like they had it all together, right? Which I feel like so many of us, we come in, and I'm one of the most guiltiest people to feel like I always think, oh, I gotta have it together. I'm a pastor. I gotta have it together, you know. But to be so vulnerable, you know, I can learn a lesson from that to recognize, like, man, we don't need to be so. I gotta have it together.
I know you've heard the illustration. Somebody said, people go to AA and say, I've got a problem, and they get better. People come to the church and say, I don't have a problem, and they get worse.
So I think that answers the question you asked earlier. Help us, right? You said, help us figure out how do we be more open to those kind of services and for that flow to happen, right? We talked about that earlier, and I think that's a big one. Just be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Have some people in your life. I'm not saying be vulnerable and stand up with the microphone and
from
tell
the
every
whole
sin you did this week. No, I'm
Please
not talking
don't.
about
Please
that.
don't.
We don't want that.
Please
you know?
don't.
But to have some people that you can rely on to be praying for you, to know that you are struggling, to have someone to go to. And obviously, the most important one is to go to Christ with that, but to also have some brothers and sisters in Christ to be able to go to, you know, because we all have struggles, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're not perfect, are
Hey,
we?
one of my greatest desires as the pastor of this church, that's been here forever, is that nobody have to walk alone.
That's good.
And I'm telling you guys that are watching, many people are walking alone. There's nobody that's there that's really saying, I love you, I'm praying for you, I want to encourage you. If you need anything, call me. If you just need to talk, I'm available day or night. I'm going to be your friend to the end, and we're going to make it together. There's many, many people that don't have that. And, man,
it's good.
My desire for us is that we don't walk alone.
It's good. All right, Harry, as we
Well,
wrap
one more
up,
thing. Michelle Marlin's been on tonight, Martin,
Yeah.
and I'm glad to see her. She lost her mom this week. Greg Farron's sister, well, last week actually.
Yeah.
Greg's sister, Sandy. And Michelle, we're aware of that, and pray for you and your family in this huge transition, and your dad as he tries to find his way forward. It's just a huge piece, and I'm glad you're on. That's remember Greg too, and Don. They lost their sister, but it's good. Anything else, Trev, we need to talk about? We need to wrap up in the right way.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's just, I really feel like the Lord's doing something new and fresh.
I do
really,
too.
I really believe that with all my heart. With different people,
Yeah.
with different kind of avenues even.
Yeah.
And we really have to be a people who's vulnerable and open to whatever the Lord wants for us personally.
Yeah, Trev, you give me an opportunity to say this, and I don't want to stretch it longer and wear
that's
people
fine.
out, but I tell you, this is not a discouraging time for the church. It's different time.
It's different, for sure.
No question it's different. But I'm telling you, the Lord is moving, and He's working, and people are responding, and it's okay, man. It's a good season.
Man.
It's good season.
We had 25 teenagers at our Super Bowl party.
Did you really?
Sunday night. And it was such, and that's not a brag on anything but the Lord, because it gave these students a time to just be together, to laugh, to fellowship, to have some adults love on them and care for them. And, you know, I don't know, it'd be easy to look and say, what a tough season. But man, I'm telling you, the Lord, like, we have to be open to what the Lord wants to do, because He's doing some pretty awesome stuff.
If we can be open to that newness of that, you know, if we can get beyond what we think is reasonable.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So it may not be unreasonable that when we get done with this call tonight, you send a text to encourage somebody.
Okay. Is that the challenge?
The challenge tonight is before you go to bed tonight. Now see how hard it is? Some of you already said, I ain't going to do that.
It's too late.
I ain't too late. Come on. It's just that we get.
I'm saying we have excuses.
I know. Yeah, we got excuses. We get in this routine that says I only do what I want to do. How in the world's words did that, man?
Yeah.
So I'm saying I wanted to be in a group where somebody else is telling me what to do, and I have to say, really? Okay, you know. So I want to tell you tonight, before you go to bed tonight.
Yeah. Do it fast. Do it quickly.
Yeah. Send an encouraging text to somebody. You can say whatever you want to say. Just
That's
encourage
good,
them.
Harry.
Say, I appreciate you and who you... No, I ain't going to tell you what to say. Just encourage somebody. And let the fresh work of God happen.
That's great.
And rejoice, man. Let's enjoy the Lord and one another. Man, let's enjoy one another. It's good. It's good. The Lord's good. And so
Absolutely.
we need to be done, don't we, Trevor?
Yeah, definitely.
Before everybody leaves and goes home. May the Lord bless you and keep you and cause His face to shine upon you. Be gracious to you. And give you not just quiet, but the wholeness and the fullness of life that the Old Testament calls peace. In Jesus' name. Have a great evening. Thanks for stopping in. I'm going to shut up.
Absolutely.
Bye.